Okay, so now that you have made your plan, you know that the first thing you had to do was look and see, did you have any grouping symbols? Well, in this equation, you're thinking, do I see any parentheses or do I see any brackets? And I don't. So I know that I can move down to the next piece of my flowchart. So I didn't have any grouping symbols, so now I'm looking for division or multiplication, whichever comes first from left to right. So I'm going to take my finger over here on the left and I'm going to read it as if I'm reading a book. As I go across, do I hit a division sign first or do I hit a multiplication sign first? And I hit a division sign first. So the first part of your plan should have been to divide. Okay, then as you're checking for any other division or multiplication symbols, I come across multiplication. So I know I need to divide first, then I need to multiply. Okay, then I'm done with that piece of the flowchart, so I have to hop down here to addition or subtraction. Well, do I see any addition signs? I don't. I just see one subtraction sign. So I'm going to put my S here. So again, I didn't use my grouping symbol sticky or my addition sticky. Okay, I'm not going to use every single one every time. So this is going to tell me I'm going to have about 3 steps that I'm going to need to do to solve this problem. Okay, so now we want to rewrite it. 42 divided by 6 minus 3 times 2. Okay, I go back to my sticky, and the first thing I have down is that I want to divide. So you need to go and circle 42 divided by 6 and make your snow cone. So you're thinking 6 times what can get you to 42? Well, 6 times 7 gets you to 42. Then I need to bring down everything else. So my subtraction kind of got circled in there, but I know I didn't actually need to. So I've got to bring down 7 minus 3 times 2. So I've done the first part of my plan. Now I need to go to the second part. I need to multiply. So I'm going to circle 3 times 2. I'm going to make my little snow cone, and 3 times 2 gives me 6. So I'm going to put my 6. I still haven't used my 7 or my subtraction sign, so I have to rewrite my 7 minus 6. So I've done my divide right here, that first step. That got me to 7. I've done my multiply, the second step of 3 times 2, and that got me to 6. So now I need to subtract 7 minus 6, and that gets me to 1. So again, I have this big equation, and my answer is just plain old 1. So as I got closer to the end of my snow cone, it was getting smaller and smaller till I got down to 1 answer. Okay, so now we need to flip our paper around so that we can look at our other 3. Okay, now I want you to go ahead and pause this video, and I want you to first make a plan for this problem, and then I want you to solve it. So you need to go back again, look for grouping symbols, division, multiplication, then addition, subtraction. So pause it, make a plan, and solve. Once you've solved it, come back and you can check your answer. Okay, so the first thing I want you to check is, did you make your plan correctly? Okay, we have to first think of our flowchart or think of our acronym. So give my dad a sandwich. Give. Did we have any grouping symbols? And we didn't. We don't have any parentheses or brackets. So next, my dad. We're thinking multiplication or division. We're just seeing whichever comes first as I go across from left to right. So I'm looking for a multiplication sign or a division sign. The first one I saw was multiplication. So that means the first thing I'm going to do when I solve is multiply. Then I keep going across and I have a division sign. So the second thing I'm going to do is divide. Then you go back, a sandwich, addition, or subtraction, whichever one comes first. So I go back and I look across, and I first see subtraction, so I need to do that. And then I go across and I see addition, so I'm going to need to add. So your steps are going to be to multiply, divide, subtract, then add. Okay, if you didn't make the right plan, and you didn't solve it correctly, make sure that you erase it and you fix it as we go through this. You need to make sure you have the right answer going into your notes. Okay, so as I rewrote it, the first thing I saw that I needed to do was multiply. So I circled my 3 times 4, and that got me to 12. I brought every single other number and symbol down because I needed to make sure I solved the whole rest of my plan. If I just put that 12 down there, I'm not going to be able to solve every other sticky that I have down. Okay, so I did my multiply. Now I need to do my divide. Circle 12 divided by 2. Make your little arrow down. You're thinking 2 times what gets you to 12? And 2 times 6 gets you to 12. Again, you bring everything down. So now you have 17 minus 10 plus 6. We've done 2 steps. Now we're over here to subtraction. So you should have circled 17 minus 10, made your little arrow down, and you should have gotten 7, and then brought down your plus 6. So you're on the last step, the last piece where you're adding, and 7 plus 6 got you to 13. Go back and check. Did you do every single piece correct? If you didn't do it in this order, you're going to get a much different answer than 13. This is the order it has to go in. Thinking of our flow chart, these are the exact rules that we have to follow when we're solving it. Okay, on this next one, I want you to try the same thing. Okay, so I want you to make a plan and then solve it on your own. So pause the video and then come back and check and see how you did. Okay, so see how you did. You had this order of multiplying, dividing, adding, then subtracting. Okay, so that's the order that it should have been in. And then as you were solving, so the first thing you wanted to multiply was 7 times 6. That got you to 42. You rewrote everything back down. Then you needed to do 42 divided by 13. Now I came over here and did some quick long division because I don't know 42 divided by 13, or not 13, divided by 3 off the top of my head. So you can come over here and do that too. Okay, so after I divided, I found out that 42 divided by 3 was 14. I wrote that down here, and again I rewrote everything else. So 3 plus 14 minus 4. Okay, then I needed to add, so I circled my 3 plus 14, and I put my 17 down here, and I only had minus 4 left. So I wrote that down, and then I did my subtraction piece, and that got me to 13. So 2 very different equations, both got me to the same answer by doing my order of operations. Okay, now looking at this last one, so think, what is different about these grouping symbols on here? Okay, what's different? As you look in your grouping symbols, do you have more than one operation going on in here? Absolutely, and you may see something like that on the STAR test. Okay, so you're thinking of your flowchart. Well, you know you first have to do grouping symbols, so that goes above all. But in your grouping symbols, order of operations still matters. So you're thinking, what are you going to do first? Multiply, or are you going to add? Okay, we're thinking back on our flowchart. After grouping symbols comes division, multiplication. Give my dad, then a sandwich. Add, subtract. So I'm going to need to multiply next. So I'm going to stick my M right below my G because I'm looking at my grouping symbols. I'm going to need to multiply. Then I'm going to need to add. Okay, after I solve everything that's in my grouping symbols, then I'm going to have to subtract. That little subtraction sign there. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this below. 42 minus 4 plus 5 times 2. So I'm looking at my grouping symbols first. I'm going to circle 5 times 2, and that's going to give me 10. Okay, well, am I done solving everything in my parentheses? Think about that before you rewrite it. I still have 4 plus in there, and that's still inside of my parentheses. So I need to bring those down with it. I have 4 plus 10, then I have 42, and a subtraction sign outside of my parentheses. Okay, so I'm in my grouping symbols. I multiplied. Now I have to add. So I'm going to circle that 4 plus 10. That's going to give me 14. Then I'm going to bring down my 42 and my subtraction sign. So I'm finally done with everything in my grouping symbols. The last thing I have to do is subtract. So 42 minus 14 gives me 28. And that is my answer. So that's how you solve your big, long expressions. using order of operations.